Okay, so now we're going to go on to part two, and I didn't really want to have a part two for you guys to have to go into Photoshop, but it's going to make the envelope look the best that it can be. So you're going to want to open up Adobe Photoshop on your desktop, I'm assuming, is where you'll be working. And here you'll see me clicking File Open, and I'm going to go grab the two PSD files that we exported off of our iPad. So the one was the background, and the other one was just the design. And I'm going to open those both up. And so there's the background file, and the other one is the design. And now I'm going to make a new canvas, and I'm going to choose File New, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to pick to make a canvas size that's the same as that paper size that we need to make the envelope, which was 8.5 inch by 8.5 inch. And you'll see I already had it made, but just so you know how I did that, I put in 8.5 inches for width and height. I made sure the resolution was 600 because that's what the iPad canvas was set at, and you don't want those to be different or else they'll look like they're different sizes. So make sure it's 600, and then you're going to want to work with CMYK color because that's what's best for print. And once you've done that, you hit create, and it will open up the blank white canvas that is 8.5 by 8.5 inches. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do is go over to my design file, and I'm going to make sure that I grab all of it, which is going to be the design over here in the layers and also the ribbon at the bottom. The ribbon was not inclusive of that design folder, so hitting shift, holding down shift when you select will grab all of them, and then typing the letter V for the direct select move tool. I'm going to grab all of the design, and then I'm going to bring that over into that new file that we just created. It's still called Untitled 1 up there, but it's the blank 8.5 by 8.5 inch canvas. So once you have your design in this blank canvas, we need to rotate it so that it's going to fit correctly in the template of what your envelope punch board needs it to be. And if you recall from other tutorials, the work surface of your envelope actually is on a 45-degree diagonal on this page. So what I'm going to do is make sure that first that the design is centered by grabbing everything, and when those pink guidelines show up, that means that it's both horizontally and vertically centered. And then if you just take your cursor and you hover over around the corner node, it's going to change to that two-headed arrow, and that means you're ready to rotate. So I click down with my left finger, I have a mouse trackpad, so just one click down, and I start the rotation off, and I don't go the entire 45 degrees because I want that to be exactly 45. So me starting it off got it to, I think it says like about -8 something up in the toolbar under that angle symbol. You're going to see me come over there right now and delete that out and change it to be -45, and that's going to make the design be exactly 45 degrees counterclockwise from where it started. To make that be accepted, I come over and I clicked on my move selection tool, and that's going to say apply the transformation, and I hit apply. And this is going to take just a couple of seconds because there's a lot of data in the iPad file that we brought in. And I think my computer's a little slow too. Probably need to do some cleanup. Okay, that is now rotated, and now is the part that is kind of annoying that we have to do. I realized it after starting this up the first time that you're going to want to extend the ribbon to the edges of this 8.5 like we did for the teal background, just so that there's not any issues where you score your envelope that like it might be a little bit off and then you can see an edge. So to do that, the first step we're going to take is how I mentioned that I had already put those white lines on the ribbon as an accent. I'm going to make sure that the accents layer is highlighted over on the right, and then by hitting E for eraser, you click down on one end and then you hold shift and click down towards the other end. It's going to erase the entire line. So I'm doing that to all 4 ribbons right now, erasing all of the white lines. And then I will show you how I'm going to extend these to the corners. And I will definitely say that, you know, I know Photoshop and all the Adobe programs enough for what I do for my work, but I'm not an expert. So if there is an easier way to extend to the corner on a skew like this, the skew makes it be a little bit tricky. If our design was still orthogonal and straight to the horizontal axis, you could just grab the nodes and hit shift and drag them to the edges and it would have stayed straight. But because you had to rotate it to make the extension happen, this is the way that I'm going to do it. I'm choosing the lasso tool over on the left, or you could also type L, and I am going to grab the black of the ribbon, and I realized after doing that I hadn't changed my layer. So right now it was still on accents. I need to make sure that I go down and I choose ribbon in my layers. Okay, so ribbon is selected. That selection from the lasso is still there, and what I'm going to do is make a copy of it. So to do that, I hit V, like I'm going to move that, but I don't want to move it away because then it will remove it from where it is right now. If I hit V and then I hold down the Option button on a Mac computer, I believe it's probably Alt on a PC, that's going to come up with a little icon that's like a double arrowhead, and it's going to be white and black, and that means it's going to make a copy. So you're going to do that, and then I'm going to copy my selection up towards the corner that I'm moving it towards. And this is not going to be exact, so what I'm going to have to do is zoom in and then use my arrow keys on my keyboard just to make sure it's as good as it can be as far as aligning to the first, black rectangle area. So I'm just going to nudge it so it looks about good. And then I can hit either the key M or go over to the left and hit the marquee box tool, the second one down. And that's going to get us out of that function. And as you can see, I didn't hit the corner yet, so I'm going to have to do it one more time. So I'm just going to do those steps again. Do the lasso tool, pick as much as I can of the black, and then I'm going to hit V to move it. While I'm in the V function, I'm going to hold down Option to make those double arrowheads come up, and I'm going to copy the rectangle and move it as much as I can, drop it down, nudge it with the arrow keys on my keyboard, and then hit M marquee to get out of the function. And once that's done, you're going to see I just have a little bit left that didn't get covered, so I'm just going to grab a brush tool, hit B for brush, and just go fill in that little piece right there. Okay, so now I'm going to speed up the video and put some music on because it's going to be the same steps on all of these ribbons. Lasso tool, then you do V, holding down Option to copy, and then nudge it as much as you need to with the arrow keys, and hit M to exit out. And you just keep doing that until they extend all the way to the edges. Okay, so now that everything's extended, we're going to add those white accents back in. So I am going to switch my color over to white, and you do that over on the left where the two swatches are shown, the black and the white. And then I made a new layer just called ribbon accents, I believe. Yeah, and that's above the ribbon, the original ribbon layer, so it's going to show on top. And now I'm just going to, with a brush tool, just a small brush head, I'm going to trace the edge of the black ribbon just to give me a straight line to copy. And then I'm going to move it over just by eye off of the black so it is some kind of a, like a little white accent on that ribbon. I'm going to do the same thing where I trace the black edge, and then because now we have two different entities on this layer, you're going to have to lasso tool. I forgot to do it there. See, I moved it and moved both of them. So you have to lasso tool or select tool to get that new white that you just made to then hit V and move it in. So I'm going to just put music on really quick again for this section where I'm doing this on all 4 ribbons, and then I will catch you after that's done. Okay, we are almost there. Now the last step to do is to bring in the background file. So we're going to go over to the other file that is up in the tabs. I'm going to grab the entire thing with the V button, move it over to our untitled canvas there, the 8.5 by 8.5, and drop that in. Those were both set up at 8.5 by 8.5, so they should align pretty well. And then just drop that in, and you're going to make sure that that layer is completely to the bottom so that it's not over top of the ribbon like it was right there. So I'm dragging the layer down to the bottom. And so now this file is all done and ready to print. So I'm going to show you how to do that, at least onto my, I can show you how to do it. Do the Save As out of Photoshop. You go to File, and you go to Save As. And then you are going to choose, make sure it says Photoshop PDF at the bottom. You could do a JPEG as well. I always tend to pick Photoshop PDF. And then I'm just picking my folder where I'm going to place this and changing the title there and hitting Save. And then it's going to ask me to save it again, save PDF again. I was replacing a file there, so I'm replacing. It's going to say Save PDF, and we're good to go. Okay, and then the last step is going to be to print this out. So I'll show you how it works on my printer, the settings on my printer, and we are going to get out of Photoshop, and I'm going to go open up that PDF that we created once it's done saving. See, I'm pointing over to that bottom left blue section that's showing that it says 99% saved. So it's almost done, and once that's done, I'll be able to open up the PDF, and I can show you the steps. So we go find the file you just made, open that up, and then when you go to hit print, I have an HP Color LaserJet. You can see the type up there at the top. And first you have to make sure that your page size is correct. So I had already made this, but I'll show you what I did. I went to Manage Custom Sizes, and I created a new one by hitting the plus sign, and I made it be 8.5 by 8.5, which is our page size, and then I made sure all the margins are 0. You're still going to get a bit of a margin because that's just how the printers are set up, but you'll see that it says the document size is 8.5 by 8.5, and that's what you want so that you can hit actual size under the page sizing area. And then I also come into my printer button here, and I make sure that under paper feed, it's going to come out of tray 2, which is the actual tray underneath. The tray 1 for mine is a manual feed, and I wanted it to be tray 2. And then I also just can make sure that the paper type is I have to go back in. Go and choose paper quality is what it's called on mine. And for this tutorial, I'm just using plain computer paper, but if this had been a real envelope, I'd be using cardstock. So I would be picking like a mid-weight cardstock or heavyweight, whatever it would be. And you can do the same if your printer has those same settings. Okay, after I hit print, you're going to want to have your envelope punch board ready, and you'll have to go back to tutorial 1 if you haven't used a punch board yet, so you'll understand what I'm saying here. 3 3/4 was the score placement for this size. So I'm making sure that that longest ribbon is where I am measuring the 3 3/4 from. That's important. You have to do it from that long ribbon edge, not one of the shorter ribbon edges. And that's where you do your first punch and your first score. Now I'm going to just keep rotating, and from there on you don't need to use any of the measurements like we talked about in that first technique video. You just use that little blue piece that's sticking out to align to your score line. And I'm just going to go around and keep doing that, punching and scoring until my envelope is ready to be scored down, and then using a Tombow adhesive is how I'm going to make sure that it stays set and sturdy as an envelope. So you can see why also we needed to place our design in Photoshop on a diagonal, because that's how the punch board, like I said, kind of sets it up to be. If this had been normal cardstock instead of just plain really thin computer paper, I would have had an easier time doing these folds. It would have been more rigid. So this was a little bit of I had to kind of finagle it to be in line with each other, but it would have been just right if it had been cardstock. So I'm just getting all the edges folded down, and then I'll grab my adhesive and I'm just going to put it down on those side flaps and call this envelope done. All right, getting this last piece of adhesive down, and then that is going to be our envelope. This series was so much fun to create. I hope you guys loved it, and I hope that it gave you some ideas for your holiday cards if you are late to the game and still getting them out, or also just ideas for the whole year when you're sending out some fun snail mail. So thank you again so much for being here, for subscribing to my newsletter to get access to this. And please keep following me on Instagram. Please engage with me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Thanks so much.